world. Fuck the drugs, fuck the cigarettes, fuck that dumb bitch. It all like fucking thing, alright? No more fucking excuses. That's the fucking. This is the year of the fucking soldier. I took steroids, bro. No, it's not. So, do you? So, we're not going to do that. So, we're not going to do. It's a beautiful motherfucking day to be alive. God gave you.
They love that slick back here.
Don't just sit there looking at me.
Really?
Smoke some weed and write your notes. Do your 22 push-ups.
I don't get how people find Joey Diaz motivating.
You don't find Joey Diaz motivating?
No. Look at him. I love him. I love him. I love listening to him, but he's the least motivating person in the world.
What motivates you, like?
Not Joey Diaz.
Right, there's a David Goggins speech here. Let's see.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
No, it could be good.
I'm not the best at
Gareth, turn it off.
I'm not gifted. I'm just driven.
You don't fucking say. Turn that off. I'll turn the live stream off.
No, you can't turn. There's loads of people here now.
I'll turn it off. I'll do it right now.
Remember the one? Yeah, you wouldn't do it.
It's gone.
She came back in, all I want to do is call.
Turn that off.
So she said, take the doctor. I said, no. Let me sit here and
This how bad do you want to breathe? This was the one in 2011. 2011.
Oh, this is phenomenal.
Eric Thomas. Oh, how bad you want it? Which one was this?
The top one.
No, this one has 48 million views. This is the one. This guy, random guy, just training.
I love this. This is motivating. Yo, he met this guy. Want to make a lot of money. The guru said,
I want to be on the same level you are. And so the guru said, if you want to be on the same level I'm on,
I'll meet you tomorrow at the beach, 4 a.m.
He goes up to the beach, right?
Got on a suit. Should have worn shorts.
This is a different time of YouTube.
Jeez, this is a different time in my life.
I was in double unders then.
So the young man got there at 4 a.m. He already rock and roll, got on the suit.
Should have worn shorts.
The old man grabs his hand and said, how bad do you want to be successful? He said, real bad. He said, walk on out in the water. So he walks out into the water. Watch that.
Remember the music as well then.
So he's like, this guy crazy.
Who's Eric Thomas?
He was just a guy who was homeless and he went and became an English teacher, I think.
An orator with a great voice.
Yeah. She's a phenomenal voice. Turn that off.
This?
Yeah.
You getting too motivated?
I just feel like
your face is flushed. You're all ready for it.
Oh, that gets me there.
That was the one.
That and the Any Given Sunday speech for me are the two. That will do it.
This is the most famous motivational one on YouTube, though. That was the one.
Like, that was the one, yeah.
2011. That's exactly like that. Just unbelievable. The Eric Thomas speech. I don't know why your man working out is even adding to it.
But it does. It does.
Because it's not as good as the one where he's just standing in the...
No.
I hope this guy made the NFL or whatever.
So do I. I have no idea who the guy in that is. Right, we better start answering some questions.
But how bad do you want to breathe?
When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. Everyone saying hello. Scott Kerr says the Joey Diaz. I love Joey Diaz. I think he's a really funny guy. But I don't think he's in any way motivating. Unless you're some fat stoner who can't do anything else.
Whoa. Your last shout out to stoners a lot lately.
I'm not.
Second time now in a week you've done it. See how full my beard looks.
Long live Sika. Hello from Australia. Live just as my food is ready. Awesome. Nice. Alfie says, afternoon, lads. Okay, Todkin says, when are the Sika Strength pants being released? 2 months. 2 months.
Yeah, we're just... it's... Supply all good. We're just trying to fix some things to make sure they're perfect. And then the t-shirts will be released with them. But it could be sooner than 2 months. It likely will be sooner than 2 months. But we just need to make sure everything's perfect.
Manny says Joey Diaz hates cheddar.
Is he lactose intolerant?
I don't know. I love cheddar.
if Lasha was natty, what would his numbers be at his best? So it's really hard to tell because there's always the issue with like, say for example, were your genetics really predisposed to weightlifting? And of course they were, but were your genetics also really exposed to taking performance enhancing drugs? And does taking performance enhancing drugs give you like per unit of gains, like per unit of kilos in your total milligram to kilogram? Do you get more? And Lasha obviously gets more than other people, gets more drugs too, I'd imagine, but also gets more performance benefit from it. So it's really, really hard to say. You know, if you see like Alien came off, Gabriel and Miso's father both thought he should have still been able to do like 180, 220. Actually, Miso's father said he'd do 160 to 200. He said he wouldn't do any more. And he was correct about that. But Gabriel was like, he should still be able to do like 180, 220 with a good training block. And he should have been. He front squatted 260, you know, and he was snatching 175 from blocks and stuff. But that was a mental thing, you know. So, and then we look at Lou. Lou stopped training and obviously came off everything. So it's too hard to say, you know, it's too hard. Like it could be as low as like,
I think
170, 220. Like it could be, you know, with a
the
lifetime of
mistake
training.
the mistake is thinking that there's any super heavies out there at that level doing a lifetime training of natural. Like you can't point any. There's no like comparison across the board where you say, oh, Matthias Steiner did this or whoever did this, you know, like there's no easy comparison because that athlete has literally never existed who's at his level.
It's really hard to know. You just like, because super heavyweights peak later, so we wouldn't see him hitting bigger numbers and peaking longer. You know, he'd be peaking late into his 20s, kind of like he is now, I suppose, you know, but it'd be obviously a lot different. So it's impossible to say really is the answer to it, but it is fun to speculate on these things, but really will never know, you know.
No.
So George Latter, how would you be training Lou if you were his coach right now? What do you reckon Akbar can is a super heavyweight? So training Lou right now, he's doing the same thing, making sure he's getting his vitamins of tiger's blood and look as much gear as he can get away with. Just keep getting familiarization with the lifts, get his absolute strength numbers back. Try and get him as close to his weight class as he can, probably like 2 kilos over. You know, if he's going down a weight class, down below, then as close as you can with that, but like probably 2 or 3 kilos over for training weight. Get him back to his numbers as best he possibly can. For him, it's just like retraining, you know, so you're not looking to improve. And if he's going down 1 to 2 weight classes, you know, he's never going to improve his numbers. He's simply just going to hit numbers that he's hit before. So for him, it's not that hard of a process. All Lou needs to do now is just keep training, keep taking gear, keep improving his strength numbers, get him back to what he can get to. You know, they'll be, the limit of those will be pretty obvious for his strength numbers. Like he'll get to stuff where you'll be like, okay, this isn't feasible to progress anymore. And things will like fall out into the wash. And you, as you'll see, you'll be like, okay, look, he's squatting 250. He seems to have a snatch 150 in the regular now. What more does he need for the weight class? You know, all these things become obvious. They'd have a good plan. Like there's nothing, he'd literally just have him training normal. There's nothing intricate you need to be doing with him, you know, snatching, clean and jerking, squatting. They love their pulls, so plenty of pulling. And then, you know, whatever he's normally done for previous training blocks, just scale back the numbers and then adjust the volume accordingly. You
wouldn't really add anything at that. It's just normal training.
What can Akbar hit as a super heavyweight? I think huge numbers.
Massive numbers.
I
don't think he'd ever rival, like...
No. He's 22. 22.
Yeah, but then you have to wonder, is it beneficial that he hasn't developed as a super heavy and that he's becoming a super heavy now as an adult versus someone like Lasher who's been a super heavy since they're 15 or 16, you know? Like, what difference does that make to joint, to bone density? Is that a better thing? Is that slower progression better, that he lifted massive weights at lighter body weight? Or is it worse? Like, what's the long-term adaptation curve for a super heavy?
Long 15, 17 years.
Yeah. But then, like, he's already been training.
But it's different when you change weight classes, you know? Like,
I get that. I think they're going to be massive numbers, but I don't think
I think he's going to do huge numbers. I think he's going to do some very, very big numbers. If he's staying, so he's definitely going to be super heavy at the Worlds. So I think we'll see him do like 205 or 207 and like 250 plus. I think he'll do something huge. If he can get up to like 140, if if he can get up to a heavy body weight, if his body can sustain it, if he's willing to be
That's the question, though. Can he sustain that?
like if he can get up to those heavy body weights, I think he'd hit some massive numbers and stay at that for a couple of years.
I wonder, long-term progression, I think he's in a great place if he goes super heavy and becomes like 125 for Worlds. And then he gradually comes back down, you know, and he's coming back down then with 110 kilo snatch.
110.
210.
I don't know. See, well, actually, no. So if he's 120 more, if he's over 120, apparently he was closer to 130.
Oh, no way.
At
I
that
thought he was
competition.
122 or something.
And he did not look it.
No,
He did not look
lean.
it. So if he has another 30 kilos on him of like feasible mass, and then he's got 6 more years to like, they could be Banky and Lasha just being like, okay, this is my last Olympics. You know, Lasha might not want to do anymore. So it's very, very interesting to see. I think of anyone in the world right now.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
If there's someone out there to do it,
Yeah.
it's going to be him.
Yeah, Akbar will be the.
Geez, he's a phenomenal unit.
I don't even care if he does beat Lasha, but aesthetically, I want to see him. I want this on video. I want to see Akbar snatching 215 competition. I want to see him doing 260 with that lovely clean and jerk technique. I want that in the world. I want that on record.
Absolutely.
It doesn't even matter to me if he didn't do 220, 270 or something. I just want that there, you know. I genuinely think he could do like 220, 270. I think this is like
I think he actually,
I think it's like a 4-minute mile thing. I think this is him being like, oh, I'm as talented as Lasha, and he's in a great system, and he's obviously on a boatload of performance-enhancing drugs, and he's clearly a horse of a man. Like,
he's clearly unbelievably talented.
So
yeah,
I think the sky is the limit for him. If the only thing holding him back is if his body is like, oh no, I don't. You could just feel terrible.
See, that's the thing. Like if you're 150 kilos as a teenager, it's very different from being in great shape. The whole he's a horse, you know. Like okay, Evan Lee wants to know, will the sleeves keep getting shorter on the new show?
I'm not sure where we're going to go next. I don't know what we're going to do.
See, that's the problem when you keep progressing it. It's like, where do you go?
We might have to guess.
I'm definitely wearing a suit.
Your full suit.
At some point.
That's definitely a progression.
And then gradually cut the sleeves off the suit.
There's a funny ties?
I don't like funny ties. I like black ties.
Yeah, but this isn't for what you like, you know. It's for what's for the new show.
For what the people want.
Yeah.
What do the people want?
What's the next progression?
Does Gareth have to come into like string top with his shirt? I think you eventually get to the point where nipples are out with the shirt.
I don't think YouTube will like that though. I'm not saying YouTube commanders. I mean like the YouTube police.
Yeah.
I think 3 o'clock in the morning, wedding tie on the head.
That could certainly work.
Be a progression.
Yeah.
But after that, then do we get silk shirts? Do we get what's newsy? Like, do we get waistcoats?
I feel what's newsy is white or a light blue shirt with a red tie.
Yeah.
Or a white shirt, like navy tie, maybe.
I'm thinking wrong burgundy tweedy jackets.
Oh, exceptional. Tweed jacket with a turtleneck.
The sleeves cut off.
Turtleneck under it.
With the sleeves cut off.
With no sleeves.
No sleeves. That could be it.
Sleeveless turtlenecks.
Turtlenecks.
Yeah.
Sleeveless turtlenecks.
See, I feel then, are we taking away from the news?
Who?
Does the news even matter?
Sleeveless turtlenecks.
What even matters anymore?
No. Full sleeve turtlenecks. Sleeveless jacket.
Okay, like a little gilet.
Yeah.
But it's a sports jacket.
Yeah, we're going for like Russian news or like Eastern European news. They wear like gilets and turtlenecks up to here, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like gold in the Eastern Europe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's next.
Okay. Scott Kerr says Eric Thomas. Okay. Erica Oliviera says, someone just broke into my car and nicked my pair of Legacy 2s. What shoe should I recommend? My Reebok heels were a bit too tall for my taste, he says later on. Ideally, Erico, if I was in your position and you have the money to be spending on something like Legacy 2s, I'd just try and buy Nike 2s. Try and get them. You won't come across them too easy. You'll have to do a bit of digging around online, but there's certainly a lot of pairs available for sale secondhand in like mint condition all the way through to like very, very trained in condition. That's what I'd recommend doing. Take a bit of a risk. do a little bit of sleuthing online.
I would, if you have tiny baby feet in the front, I would definitely get the spiders if you get them. I was wearing them again the other week, and they're a great fucking shoe. If they had a wider bit at the front, they would be a perfect replacement for Ram 2s. I think you could probably force them a wider. I wore them for a good bit of training because I actually really did like them. I wore them for a long time, and I wore them again for a few weeks ago just for a few sessions. So if you can get the spider weightlifting shoe and then widen out the front, or if it fits if your foot is fine, if you don't have like small horse feet, then I would definitely look at the spiders because they are in production and it's possible to get them. There is the Antas. The new Antas are coming out within the next few months.
And to make great shoes.
Yeah, they're good shoe. Yeah, they're good for the slot they fill in.
For the wider shoed, higher heeled.
Too high and too heavy, I think, kind of.
Yeah.
They're really good for that. If that's kind of shoe you want for your lifting, they're superb for that.
Thick feet.
I like that. You don't have to be the shoe that fits everyone's kind of thing, but you have to do your job really well. And Anta's shoe do that really well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I much prefer that than like the shitty Nike, the new Nikes that are just trying to be everything and they're nothing.
What was the newest shoe we did? Was it the Addy Powers? It was the Addy Powers.
Addy Powers.
It's this thing of trying to please like CrossFitters.
Yeah. People who don't lift weights.
They're not going to buy your shoes. They're going to buy $300 Nobles.
I think the thing is they'll actually buy the shoes and they'll buy loads of them.
They won't buy them though. They don't wear them.
CrossFitters buy
most
shoes
CrossFitters
all the time.
But they don't wear weight shoes anymore. They all wear Metcons now and Noble stuff.
Yeah.
And if they're going to buy them, they're going to buy the Noble handmade $300 fucking ones or whatever.
Dead right.
Or like their favorite American weightlifter or whatever they're wearing.
Yeah.
They're not going to buy the Adidas shoes and stuff.
See, it's a massive market share.
Do you know what? Name 2 CrossFitters who wear Adidas.
Nobody.
Anything.
No. It's because they're all sponsored.
Yeah.
Adidas are sleeping on the CrossFit market.
No, Adidas are sleeping on the weightlifting market. Do you know? They're sleeping on the weightlifting market.
I think the problem is the recreational weightlifting market is this. Recreational CrossFit market is this.
Yeah, but the recreational...
And it's going in every direction.
Recreational weightlifting market's wallet is this. They will spend money.
Only on like vintage ASICs.
No, but
I know.
People buy into Adidas.
I know. Yeah, I would do a little sleuthing around online and take a risk on a second-hand pair, to be honest. Okay, Eve Ortiz 87 says 32 in the chat and 7 likes. You make a great point. Can we just get there's 73 people here now. Can you please just like this? It makes a big difference, the amount of people who come and join us. Okay, John Teller, would you still consider your press program to be effective for bench, or would you recommend buying the bench program over it now? So certainly,
yeah, definitely buy the bench program.
Definitely get the bench program. Is the press program still effective? Yes,
yeah.
Of course it is. If it worked 6 months ago, it won't not work now. But the bench program is just better. It's more specific to the bench. Specificity is the name of the game, really.
Eric is saying the heels are too high. Sweet potato pies?
Potato pies?
Sweet potato pies. Fuck me, Emmet. Jesus Christ. How's baby mum is doing well? All very good. Everyone's very happy. 2 of them are chucking away. Very, very happy. All healthy and perfect. So that's all G. Thanks for asking.
Unmec says, how would you go about fixing someone, in brackets me, who can't get under the bar fast enough? Can overhead strength be an issue? The main thing you need is time underneath the barbell. You need lots and lots of reps at the snatch and the clean and jerk. That's the number one thing you need. A few other things you need to start looking at is like where are the actual deficits in your thing. So like if you're chronically weak, then you're not going to be able to get underneath the barbell fast. Firstly, because the height won't be in the bar to give you room to get underneath it fast, but also because you're going to be weak when you're catching. And when people are weak and they're catching and the bar is kind of crashing down on them, they're not then confident to pull under the bar quickly. Also, it could be a thing of you're smashing the bar with your hips and it's swinging out away from you, and then that receiving position has a lot of rearward momentum in it. Or you might have the barbell very, very far out in front of you and you really have to brace when you catch it overhead. The way you fix getting under the bar fast enough is just by fixing your technique generally, in my opinion, and then lots and lots of reps with it.
Abdul is taking the piss this week by asking what knee apparatus.
Yeah, I was sending Abdullah as one of my one-to-ones, and I was sending him some Illinois T-test agility drill feedback yesterday. But some guy had like this apparatus on his knees that tied his two knees together.
Oh yeah.
You've definitely seen him where you have to push your knees harder. Just a dumb piece of equipment.
Looking for like external rotation.
Yeah.
My cloths have stopped fitting me. Oh, my clothes have stopped fitting me since I've started lifting. Any advice? Just gotta buy new clothes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes.
Or else you've started lifting and the fat has kind of crept on, which happens.
It does
People
happen.
get a little chunky, you know.
Yeah.
In which case you might need to look at your
Like calories.
Yeah.
Not all calories.
It's all about energy balance. James Gallagher says, what main lifts would you use for GAA off season? I'd lean towards squat, bench, RDL, and cleans. Would you recommend difference from this?
I'd be probably looking more definitely the squat.
I'd say squat,
RDL,
yeah.
probably floor press. I think I'd be probably looking more towards.
Yeah, floor press or like a nice close grip bench. But floor press would probably be more
probably
useful.
a mix of those, yeah.
And then a super heavy row, whether that's like barbell bent over row, whether that's single arm cheater row, but like something really heavy that you can get after.
This is really specific to like it is a bit to soccer as well, but it doesn't really happen much in other sports. Is like lateral contact, loads of core work is very beneficial for this. So like pale off press, I like maybe some dead bugs, from fucking
even like Russian twists, any of that rotation or anti-rotation work.
Yeah, so it's super useful. It's not really in other sports, you don't see a lot of it, but the lateral contact in GA, is very, very high. And I even remember when there was like an overlap of like 2 years when I started like strength training and still playing GA. And I remember someone hit me in the air one time, and it was like 6 months into strength training or a year or more, and I was literally like, "Oh, that was fine," But like you can take a lot more from people. So I definitely doing a lot of core work as well for the shoulders and contacts, because of all sports, it's probably the most aggressive. They can do a little bit in soccer, but not that much, can they? Or football, very, very minimal.
You can do shoulder to shoulder contact.
And like in rugby, it's a totally different kind of contact, and it's all mostly lower body. There's never really a point where it's just you're resisting a collision, mostly someone's going to take you down, whereas it's like two forces coming at each other, and then there's no like you're looking to dissipate the force as much as possible. Whereas in rugby, obviously you need to be strong, but you need a lot of skill to get away from the tackles and stuff, and there's more to it. But in GA, it's literally resisting the force and absorbing it really well, so a lot of core work, and that obviously very strong over back helps a lot with that. But the like you'll really feel, if you work hard in it, you will feel the benefits to it. I know people say that like the big compound lifts are core work done well. I know people we've had in the guests like Stan Everything and Squat University. I know Squat University does other core work as well, but like Stan, for example, thinks they're perfectly adequate stuff. And I think in some ways it is, but in some ways I don't think it's enough. I think we're big for core work where it's needed and beneficial stuff. So I would definitely be adding in. There's no negatives to core work. No. I've never seen any negative really.
I think they're like, I get enough core work from the lifts is a crude answer to a complicated question. Like,
yeah.
And as well, particularly with athletes, because athletes are doing loads of weird things that aren't squatting, benching, and pressing.
Yeah, I suppose like first squat, bench, deadlifting, yeah.
Yeah, like first squatting, benching, and stuff. Even though with all my powerlifters and weightlifters, they still do extra core work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for GA training, don't get too mixed up in the fact that you're doing it for GA and just think that you're doing an off season to get stronger, faster, and more powerful. Once you keep those rules in mind, and don't buy like the GA special program. You need an off season that's going to make you stronger, faster, and whatever. Like, I would say if you have like cable axe chops or something like that in your program, and you get it and you look at the program, you can just throw it away straight away. Or any sort of single leg landmine work where you're doing this.
Oh yeah,
you can get rid of all that.
Yeah. No, you don't want the momentum work.
No.
You don't think the momentum?
Strangely, I don't do it.
You don't want
or
the
any butter churning work.
What about loosey goosey sledgehammer slugs onto a tire?
Oh, any sort of sledgehammer onto a tire. If you see that on your program, you can throw the program away and then whoever gave it to you, you can just get rid of them from your contacts list.
What about 2 claw hammers onto a tire and just
So no, just make sure when you're planning an off season where you're setting yourself up for an off season, that the off season has defined goals, and the goal isn't just to get better at GAA, and then you're going to hit those goals with a proper setup and proper plan.
The GA terrible for giving athletes an off season. Terrible. Like most time it runs into now, maybe a little bit later, and then there's like preseason by like January.
Yeah.
So you've
preseason in December, sure.
And like you've literally like October, November, maybe, and if you've lost, you've probably September and maybe a bit of August, like, but not really.
Yeah.
And then there's like other leagues going on. It's not even how late the first league finishes, it's how early the next one ends up starting across all levels, you know.
Okay, David Delgado says, my snatch is so trash compared to my clean and jerk. Overhead position doesn't feel strong. How do I go about troubleshooting and fixing that? Best clean and jerk 140, best snatch 70.
What?
So
that can't be right.
It's certainly not a strength issue if you're clean and jerky 140 kilos, and it's probably not an overhead strength issue if you're clean and jerky 140 kilos either. I would say almost certainly, Delgado, that your snatch technique is trash. Because if you can hold 140 kilos overhead, or certainly if you can clean and jerk 140 kilos, it's not that your overhead's so weak you can't do 75 kilos in a snatch. I would seek technical coaching immediately.
Yeah.
You could just go on the Sika program, join the Facebook group, put in your videos twice a week. We'll give you feedback. That would be a great plan, great starting point, very low barrier for entry. But it's almost certainly not a strength issue. It's more, I would say 90% going to be technically poor.
Tom Batto says, if my squat max is 180, would you run the over or 180? Run the under 180. Don't run the over 180 yet. So run the under 180, get like 20 kilo PB, then run the over 180 with like 200 or whatever. I bet it's going to happen. I bet you'd get 200. Kind of thick is saying, never train 400 meters before. Where do I begin? Just go to a track and do 4x400 as fast as possible. Our thoughts to beat test to measure fitness. So what you want to start with this is you can go to the track. Certainly warm up, do an appropriate amount of warm up, general physical warm up. Don't do 400 as fast as possible. That would be the worst thing you could do. Just go to the track. Do probably between 2 and 4 400s. Leave as much time between these as you can. So like completely, like not obviously cool down and rest, but fully recover. Don't do it as fast as possible. Absolutely, in no way should you do this as fast as possible. Go do your first 400. Do it at like 50% maximum pace. Take a break, recover, probably somewhere in the region of like 4 to 6 minutes, and then repeat, and then slowly titrate down your rest periods to a certain point, but not to a minimum point. So you want to get somewhere probably in the region of like 3 minutes or so, and then slowly increase your pace as consistently as possible over a period of several weeks. Definitely don't go to the track and do it as fast as possible. Definitely not. Ivor Tees is saying, any chance you'd create a 3 days a week masters of a weightlifting program? I know you've recommended your 4-day program 3 times a week instead, but could a specific program be made? It could, but
if you found 9 other people, we'll make that program available for sale.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of people. With the odd time you see it from masters weightlifting, but most time they'll just do the weightlifting program. But I know like Tarokity has a masters. I think he calls it Diesel or something like that. Straight diesel program, diesel and TRT program. Yeah, we have a master's program. Isn't something we've really thought about, to be honest. It's hasn't really come up.
Fair few masters 1-to-1 athletes.
Yeah, but not the general program. The weightlifting will be redesigned a little bit. We'll be redesigning our general weightlifting program. It's going to be weightlifting 2.0. It'll be sold in, I think we talked about this before, but in 3-month blocks, but you'll be individually, so like 12-week periods, so people know they can start and peak towards the end and start a new block again. So it'll be just laid out better, and it give a product that will better suit people in the way they like to train with general life, you know.
Sorry.
Manad is saying training once a day versus training twice a day for weightlifting. It's only really a concern if you have a certain amount of training done. you certain lifts hit, and then you have the capacity to train twice a day. So you have the time. The last thing you want to be doing is sleeping for 6 hours a night, getting up really early and going training, and then training in the evening. It's absolutely of no benefit. Very rarely has I ever seen this in a position outside someone who has been training for a long time, is very, very talented. It's not a prerequisite to be on a load of drugs to train twice a day. You can certainly train twice a day in weightlifting, but it's pointless if you aren't basically a full-time athlete or in a position where you want to be a full-time athlete or you want to do your best to do the best with weightlifting. So the only way you'd be doing this is if students could do it a little bit, but most times, a lot of times, students are very, very busy. You need a lot of free time for this. So training twice a day, if you're doing anything, including working or study, is very, very difficult. And most time it's not needed. And I'd say this as well. If you're even in the position where you have to ask, should you train twice a day? You're definitely not in a position where you need to train twice a day. You'll know at that point, and it's not even necessary. You can certainly do all that work in single sessions. There is some benefits to training twice a day for weightlifting, but for the amateur intermediate lifter, it's just inhibitory. It'll make your training worse for sure, because you'll end up trying to do way more training instead of splitting it out appropriately and doing the right amount of training. And then when you should be kind of recovering, you're going to work and you're just rushing through your sessions, and it's just not a great idea. It doesn't really work, and not needed either.
Venugolpal Reddy says, do you think Tyan can beat Lee Dane in the 89 kilo class?
I don't know why you said those names really weird. I just don't know why. I think he will. I think Tian has just better quality technique. I think he's just a better mover.
Yeah,
and he's.
I think the ceiling is so much higher on what he can.
Yeah, but I suppose for Tian is still room, or Lee Dane is room to grow into it. But Tian has done much bigger lifts, So I think Tian will probably be the winner in the 85 at the 89s.
Nazim says, how much conditioning for MMA should be spent in zone 2? What do you think of ballistic upper body exercises like bench rows in a Smith machine for upper body power? So the first thing, how much of MMA training should be spent in zone 2? Probably a fair amount, like a good amount. Depending on where you're fighting or what kind of MMA federation you're fighting under, you're probably a number of 5-minute rounds or a number of 3-minute rounds. Zone 2 cardio works very, very well for that. Zone 2 cardio should form basically the building blocks of your aerobic base, so changing around those physiological values in the cell, changing around some of your blood values, becoming fitter in terms of becoming more aerobically fit. A fair amount of your time should be spent there. For most MMA athletes, you're probably talking around 4 sessions a week of zone 2 cardio, possibly as much as 7 sessions a week of zone 2 cardio. So, a lot of it. Obviously, it's low impact, but it makes a massive impact on your actual aerobic values. In terms of ballistic upper body work, ballistic upper body work is beneficial if done correctly and at the right point in training. So, if you're somebody and you're not benching 1.5 times body weight, or at least 1.25 times body weight, if you're not very, very strong in the core, if you're not able to bend over row or cheat or row at least your own body weight, if not 1.5 times your own body weight, then none of these movements or things are of your concern. Once you have achieved those prerequisites and you're very strong and you're very stable and you're in the position where now you can go on and progress your training in a similar way where somebody may not be appropriate for plyometric training until they'd hit certain prerequisites, you need to think about that kind of ballistic plyometrics, the upper body plyometrics in the exact same way. So if you have hit the strength prerequisites, then I would start off with something much more simple than getting yourself set up in a Smith machine. The problem, obviously, with the Smith machine is that depending on your system of engagement, it mightn't be the most kind of easy thing to get involved with. What we'll use a lot of the time with rugby players is we'll get somebody to stand behind them. So they'll lie on the floor, their knees pulled up nice and high. So they're in a position kind of like where you be for your floor press. They'll have somebody standing, like the person's feet will be there, and they'll hold a medicine ball over them. And then the person's hands will be out in front. The medicine ball will drop from a height. They'll load up their arms, drive the medicine ball away as fast as possible. There's a couple of reasons that's a more beneficial exercise than something on a Smith machine or some of the other exercises. The first thing is that you get an eccentric loading phase here that's under load, right? So that ability to take a mass that's falling pretty quickly on you, brace and bring it in, and then turn around in the bottom. So going from eccentric through amortization into concentric and driving it away as possible. That's very beneficial because it starts loading up your stretch shortening cycle, which is something you don't usually do too well in upper body movements. And then as you drive away, obviously you have very, very fast, high velocity movements. This is a skill which will have to be worked on. This is like the small little sprinkling of icing sugar on top of your cupcake, though, and it really isn't an integral part. You won't notice any real difference in punching speed. You won't notice any real difference in anything like punch mechanics or resilience to injury. This is just a very, very kind of fine end, a nice little addition in at the end of your cycle, but it's not something which should be a mainstay in anyone's work realistically.
Yeah, the use of upper body plyometrics is interesting. Like, there's definitely a place for them in some scenarios, like for throwers, discus throwers, hammer throwers makes perfect sense. But in general, if we're trying to do things at body weight, so with no additional loading plyometrics isn't the best way, So there's the one that we've talked about a good few times before for lower body. So it's the lower body dynamic hypothesis theory or whatever, is that essentially that you produce the more power. You produce the most power at body weight when doing jumping and plyometric stuff, and it decreases proportionally as you increase load. Things that do go up with that are like ground reactive forces and stuff. The evidence then is interesting because if you use things like accommodating resistance or facilitated resistance, you get different power development or different power curves, for the lower body. For the upper body stuff, I'd say it'd be unclear, and I'm not sure if it'd be the best idea. So there is good research on things like using weighted implements is absolutely negative. There's a meta-analysis came out like last year, negative for skill development and power development. So it looked at things like weighted baseball bats. It looked at things like other weighted implements, weighted punching were all very, very negative. I don't think the use of like upper body plyometrics would be super inhibitory, but I don't think it would be much of a positive. I think there's more potential for negative than it is for positives. Like let the MMA training, let the punching stuff be the issue with speed, and learn practice punches. I don't think you're going to get a huge benefit from them. And I think anyone saying you definitely can, I would be very interested to see
what they're selling you,
what they're doing, what they're doing and how they're going about it, and what position they're doing, and I'd be very open to it. If someone was like, oh, look, here's what I'm seeing, and then here's the data, and here's my reasoning, and then this is what scenario I'm using it with. But as of right now, I don't think it is a good idea. I think you're potentially opening yourself up to negatives, probably small negatives, to be honest, in reality, but more likely opening yourself up to negatives than you are the positives. Nothing might happen, and you might be fine. Like Dara was saying, you're probably not going to notice anything. But if you kind of go with the evidence for the lower body, and then if you put yourself at risk for altering movement patterns by doing other upper body plyometrics, you're doing like weighted punches, and you could do accommodating resistant punches for sure, but I would definitely alter your movement patterns. So I would definitely be on the fence with the use of it, and probably more on the wait and see side of it, because there's plenty of people with very, very strong punches who never did that kind of stuff. And so I would probably put yourself, look at what have they done and what do they need, and then consider yourself in that same bracket unless proven otherwise.
Daddy Cuss says Andre Galvao versus Gordon Ryan pick. 10 plus year age difference, but gear might level the playing field.
But Gordon on gear too.
Everyone's on gear.
Everybody's on gear.
It's Gordon Ryan.
Yeah, I don't think
for me all day.
Wasn't Galvo basically retired though?
Galvo, yeah,
he was based. I think he not stopped training because Jiu-Jitsu never stopped training. But I think he, I think he kind of wound down his career, So I can't see, like, he's a horse of a man, And maybe if they're in their prime, they both come up together. Would you see a different? I think here's one. I'm going to go on record and say this. I think anyone who's there now isn't going to beat the person who's going to beat Gordon Ryan. I think the person who's going to beat Gordon Ryan is in a gym in the middle of nowhere that nobody knows yet. Their instructor is kind of afraid of the person because they're an absolute horse of a young man, but they're really happy there in their gym and they're messing up everyone else in the gym. And I think we're going to see them in the next 4 4 years is that if I've seen who's going to beat Gordon Ryan. He's out there. There's an absolute the fucking Shaquille O'Neal, the Clarence Kennedy, just in someone's gym at the moment wrestling, who's been doing it for like 6 months and he's like 17. I think that's the person who's going to beat Gordon Ryan. I don't think anyone in the rosters at the moment is going to beat Gordon.
There's a bit of an issue as well where people say, oh, the older they get, the more beneficial it is, you know. But geez, it's hard. Be hard in your late 30s or your 40s to be coming up against an absolute stallion.
Like, I think it's just hard coming up against him at any age, to be honest.
Yeah.
As unpleasant as you might seem on camera, I think it's just hard to...
like you can't get away from...
him being a horse as well.
Kind of thick says, in Sika bench, what's the purpose of Arnold press and then dumbbell press superset? Why can't they just do 30 reps of both instead of like 12 and 12, 15 and 15? So this is like the question of why do I have to do deadlifts and RDLs? Or why would I have to do back squats and front squats? Both of them achieve very, very different things. So obviously with the Arnold press, you've forced external rotation, which in the bench press is something we tend to miss out on. It's something people tend to really limit themselves by when they're bench specifically, particularly if you're trying to get someone to like maintain a good position and not really flare out and internally rotate as they come up with the bench. The Arnold press is very, very beneficial. If you were to do too many Arnold press, you'd obviously just burn out. Whereas Arnold press then followed by some dumbbell overhead pressing, it's obviously a good way of accumulating volume and becoming strong.
Matty B saying thoughts on Island Kika Matana. It's an incredibly powerful lifter.
That was some pronunciation.
I had heard of it before.
Oh.
She's complete misservice by her coach Sam Kaffa. What competitions did she do within the last 12 months where she just missed a load of snatches or very underperformed because she was really missing? She's missing the snatches. Was it behind and just like made like 1 out of 3 or something? She was warming up with powers. And she seems to always warm up with powers in both lifts, and I just don't think that's a good idea. That's just completely misrepresents.
That's a terrible lift.
Just misrepresents the idea of what the lifting should be. I remember talking to Seb about it, and he said he was talking to her coach, and they were basically like, well, she doesn't miss anything, so it doesn't matter. But Sam is in like his late 80s or whatever, and I just don't think he's maybe, I don't know. It's just a terrible idea in terms of her lifting, but she's an amazing lifter, and if she, maybe had someone better coaching her, she might be better off, I would say. Incredible lifting though, just so powerful. Mental. Did you look at her somewhere lifting there?
I've seen her, I recognize her.
Yeah,
seen her lifting before.
Incredible.
Actually, when you were talking about the powers in the warm-up room, I remember Sika pants when less than 2 months. Eve Ortiz says at the end of the year you're going to be shirtless with suit sleeves on and a tie, reverse sleeveless. Cosplay as Santa and reindeer. Sleeveless was a natural progression. Okay, Johnny One Plate. That's a fucking hilarious name. For ultra endurance cycling racing, is it better to be shredded or a bit bloated? Almost certainly shredded. With your ultra endurance stuff, most of the time what you're looking at, people, it's not like your kind of medium endurance stuff where you have people who are still very, very carb dominant. A lot of time what you have is people who are very, very flexible in terms of their use of carbohydrates and of fat. Being a bit bloated is not where you want to be though, in terms of you're going to be heavier. There's more of you to move around on the bike. There's just non-useful stuff. Most of the time your subcutaneous lipid, like your fat that sits underneath the skin, isn't ever going to be used in the service of your exercising thing. If it's a 4-day race, having a bit of extra like fat on you might be beneficial. You might use up some of that subcutaneous fat or use some of the energy stored within it. But for most sporting events, and obviously ultra endurance cycling is a strange sporting event that goes on for multiple days, but you're not on a desert island starving to death, you know. If I was about to be in a plane crash today, I'd say being a bit bloated is probably a bit better. But for you, when you're trying to move your mass over a considerable distance, being more lean is better. Now, there's a definite stopgap at the bottom of this where a certain level of leanness will be inhibitory, right? So you need to make sure you're not kind of under 10% body fat, you're going to get some weird stuff going on there in terms of hormonal control. But yeah, shredded is better than bloated, unfortunately.
Why is she helping him on, pushing him on the way down?
That's his girlfriend who coaches him, and by everything I've ever seen is bad.
But she seems to be like bodybuilding style stuff.
Yeah, that's why he looks like that. We're just looking at videos of Gordon Ryan training.
I'd seen a little bit of gym stuff from before, but it was always
It's just all bodybuilding.
All bodybuilding stuff, you know. So, but it'd be interesting to see what the rest of it is.
Go back up there to the Joe Rogan thing where it's like, this is my show. Go back up. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Any hoozle.
any rules.
Okay. Dave Berman says, hey guys, in your opinion, what would a workout program look like as you get older and want to purely focus on health benefit and no longer performance?
I don't understand the question.
So the first thing is, I think in terms of aerobic work, you'd get a minimum of 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic work per week. So that's you sitting on an exercise bike, going for a jog, going for a very brisk walk up some hills for 30 minutes 5 times per week. So a lot of aerobic work. That's minimum. That's like World Health Organization. If you go below this, you're at risk of dying earlier. If you go above it, you're probably grand. But that's what I'd say. So every weekday, basically, you'll sit on an exercise bike, an air bike, an Aerodyne, go for a jog, go for a walk up some hills for 30 minutes. Then I'd say probably 3 times a week of bodybuilding and general strength work is the kind of backbone of your program. And then some mobility work if you were tightening up.
The strength training is like really becoming apparent in the literature for the best thing you can do, well beyond even aerobic work at the moment. So like strength training is the most important thing you do for living longer. It's becoming very apparent in the literature from the people. If you listen to the people who are kind of involved in that area, there's a very good book. It's like the 10 Things for Living Longer. I'll see if I can dig up the name of the book somewhere, but it is like strength training. It's like there's a load of different things, like, you know, it's like metabolic health, like glucose regulation, internal temperature control. Strength training was in the top 10, you know, ability to produce force in your muscles. So like it plays into your bone mass and an ability to move your body, you know, proprioception. Like what a lot of times gets people is you'll have low bone density, you'll slip in the shower in your 80s and you'll destroy your pelvis because you've had low bone density. You didn't have the strength to stop yourself, and then you didn't have the bone density to just get up after the fall and be like, damn, that hurt. Then you go into the hospital. You didn't die from the broken pelvis, but you did spend a lot of time in hospital. You're very, very unwell. You're not moving. You get sick, you know, because you're in hospital, because you've your body is prioritizing other things in terms of repairing your pelvis. So you're in a compromised position. You get sick, and then usually like you'll die from something like pneumonia or whatever, you know. Whereas if you've been stronger, you'd have better be able to resist the fall. And then if you win the hospital, likely you would have been in a better position to resist the death from the deadly virus and stuff, you know. So strength training is definitely a priority. Maintenance of muscle mass then is very important as well. So those play hand in hand. So just strength training and muscle mass, and then of course aerobic work is obviously still very important. Just because strength training seems to be more important than the aerobic work doesn't mean you should have the absence of the aerobic work, of course. Both of them would be very important.
We pick a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
Liam McMahon says, Fridge, is your power washer for sale yet? Alice, thanks. I don't understand what that is.
Why is that? Oh, the power washer in the shed. It's not for sale because it's not even my power washer.
Okay. So
Alfie's saying he's starting quite a large project of designing, making his own wrestling shoes. What are the top 3 features the dream shoe should have? A normal size toe box. Not going to say a large toe box. I'm just going to say enough room for your toes, like the Rom 2s have.
Yeah, I like the Rom 2s. I think the
lighter the better.
Yeah.
Lighter the better.
People think big and heavy means stable and great, but it really doesn't.
The heavier you get and the higher your heel gets, the more unstable you're getting, like laterally, you know. And you'll see it in shoes that like the Ironwork 3s are very low and light, and the stability you feel is actually a lot better than higher and heavier, you know, especially if the weight is towards the top end of the shoe.
I would say the last thing is it should be a 1-inch heel raise.
Yeah.
3 centimeter. I have 2 controversial questions here and I want to answer both.
2 controversial questions.
So the first one is from Loaf. And it's not your pull-ups for weightlifting question. It's, do you think the US will win gold at any male Olympic weightlifting international stage? I'm speaking like somebody who has a speech impediment.
That's someone like that. That's how you always speak.
Yes. And I think they'll win because I think they're getting help from somebody who's now held in the US and was previously helping a different country with their doping.
Schmuff.
Shregarin Meshmenkov. Because you'll see a lot of their athletes are doing very, very well now. Obviously, their female athletes are doing exceptionally well. And I think what you're going to see is, so the US obviously had a systematic doping or a federation-wide systematic doping setup in place previously. That kind of went away after the Cold War, and it was just each athlete doping themselves. And I think you're going to see now a gradual progression back as certain people help them out more towards being more successful. I still don't think any of the big weight classes, or it'll be a long time before that happens. But I think you'll see juniors doing quite well in the next 4 or 5 years, and I think you're going to see a senior Olympic medal within the next 2 quads.
Yeah. Like someone who's been recently given asylum in the US, who knows everything about doping at international level, who helps other multidisciplinary sports win multiple medals.
And he wasn't given asylum because he was in a Netflix documentary.
Wasn't given asylum because of that.
But he was in a Netflix documentary about being given asylum.
You could say he flew too close to the sun.
Oh, and his wings melted?
You could say that.
Yeah.
You could say that this individual.
Okay, Robert Kavanagh, just to get all the controversy out here, would love to hear your opinion on Gordon Ryan's weight regime and how much he's cranking on juice. A lot. So the first thing I want to talk about is that everybody you see fighting in jiu-jitsu is on gear. It's like watching the CrossFit Games. I actually like, and the funny thing is you'll see like people regularly commenting online on YouTube videos, on like Reddit and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, it's crazy to see him go against somebody who's not on gear, you know. They'd be like, oh, it's mad to see Keenan's technique against him because the other guy was clearly on gear and he wasn't. They're all on gear. The small skinny lads on gear, the big massive lads on gear. I can't think of anyone. Can you?
No.
Anyone who's at ADCC level or like...
No, but they're encouraging it. They don't even test it.
Yeah. And then in terms of Gordon's weight regime, it just seems horrendous. Every time I see it, it's like just bodybuilding stuff. It's like Planet Fitness, bodybuilding, personal trainer stuff. And I think...
Is there so little of it there? Like,
it's just like this, you know, some bench pressing, some deadlifting, but it's like, you may as well be wearing Skechers. Like, that's what his weight training reminds me of, somebody who wears Skechers when they lift.
I'd say he's not very strong in terms of gym lifts.
No, but he's yacked.
Yeah. I had Sledgehammer anything said, I did DM on Instagram, but your Luke Richardson 5 squat tips saved my squat. Squatted 227 2 years ago. 180 felt off 3 weeks ago. We washed 220 and squat 220. That's fantastic.
Nice.
That's great to hear. A Wild Strongman said, if I wanted to do a hybrid athlete challenge like a mile in a squat but with swimming, what would you say a challenging time duration would be? What strength lift would complement? I think bench press would have to be the one, but I'm not quite sure what the swimming thing would be because I'm not really au fait with the distances per se. You'd have to figure out like what's like some of the Olympic distances or something, and see what's a pretty short one but still one that's hard to do fast.
Yeah.
And then the bench, my brain wants to say 180, but that seems unreasonable. So maybe like 140 seems too little though. I feel like I want to say 180.
It really depends what distance you want to go for the swim. So if you're like sprint distance for swimming, a lot of those swimmers are very, very strong.
Yeah,
Like you could say 160 or 170, you know.
maybe
But
160 is better.
yeah. Yeah, 160 is probably more reasonable, but it really depends on the distance a wild strongman. Because if you're doing a fucking 5K swim, like you bench pressing 104 kilos on that day is impressive, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's it really is straight. Like for the 5-minute mile and 500 pound squat, like the mile is a very defined event. It's a very different event from doing a lift and off workout where it's 75-second 400. Like those programs are polar opposites of each other, and how you get yourself set for it in the same way. Whereas if you wanted to do a marathon and run and squat 200 kilos, say in the same day, you know, yeah,
I don't know, maybe like 400 meters and 106 kilo bench. Is that unreasonable? I have no idea.
400 meters long swimming event.
Is it a bit too long? I wonder how long would what's the 400 meter swimming record is?
Freestyle, or all 400 meters?
3 minutes 40.
That's a long time to be swimming.
That's swimming fast as well.
That's
yeah,
what
maybe
I mean,
like 400. It has to be 400 meters.
400 meters and 400 pounds?
It has to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's that? That's less than 180 kilos.
You can't like deadlift, can you? That's not as impressive. No, because the lift on its own needs to be impressive.
Yeah.
So like,
No, it can't be some shitty little light.
can't be like a 120 bench or something.
No.
I think it'd have to be like 160. It has to be 400 meter swim and a 400 pound bench press.
Yeah.
When Ross Edgley came back from the Great British Swim,
Yes.
it looked like the first gym session he did, he benched like 180. And he was like,
Yeah.
just getting my legs back, or my arms, or like my sea legs. His feet were completely flat. He lost his arch for a while.
Oh my God.
Anyway, are we done?
Yeah.
Thanks for all the questions, lads. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. And sorry you can't get to everyone's question. Obviously, you kind of know how they run at this point. We usually go to around 45 or 50 minutes, and then we just cherry pick one of the ones that are some of the ones that tickle our fancy. But thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you all again very, very soon, I'm sure. If you have questions about any of the stuff we talked about, email us, sikastrength@gmail.com. If you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And then if you're interested in any of the products we talked about, the link is down below. Thanks, guys.
EA Sports, it's in the game.